Hi everyone. Like a lot of families, mine has a rich tapestry of cultures and generations. My dad has incredible stories of his childhood in India, back home in his village in India. Stories that I desperately want to pass on to my young kids. But there's this barrier, his language. He can speak good English, but it just doesn't carry well enough. So I had a light bulb moment. What if I could use AI to help me unlock these stories? What if I could use AI to help document and recreate these stories that I can show to my kids? Okay, Tata, special surprise for you.
Toyo.
Around Varuvur were three hamlets, Mala, Madiga, and Yamadulu, each a one cluster of homes. It was a
you like
cradle
it?
of stories, each woven with the threads of every...
Question. What's the story about, guys?
Tata.
It's about Tata? That's pretty cool.
Every time my dad tries to tell his stories in English, something gets lost. It's not just the words, it's the flavor, the feeling of being there. I used to be a big fan of Malgudi Days, the stories from Malgudi Days when growing up. And I wanted to give my children a similar flavor of stories, but paint their grandfather as the hero and have the stories be his stories from his childhood, recreated somehow using AI. That's how my AI journey began. I split this project into multiple steps. Step one was gathering all the details from my dad. I wanted to capture the stories from my dad in his own voice. So I also wanted to construct a way for him to do it at his own time. So I sat about building a WhatsApp chatbot that was specifically designed to prompt him for his stories. Something that he could tell his stories to in his own time. Something that could prompt him for his stories too. Something similar along the lines of Storyworth or Memento. I did do a review of both of those services, but somehow they did not feel they would be suitable for stories from an Indian person. So I went about creating my own prompts with some help from ChatGPT, and I kept these prompts more localized and more organic for my dad. So my WhatsApp bot was designed to prompt him about these stories and have him record these in audio and save them. The language choice. I wanted him to record his stories in his native language of Telugu because he was able to capture an essence, a liveliness of the stories in that language. He's very comfortable with it. His memories all of a sudden came back more vividly when he was explaining these things in Telugu. I have his stories now, but it's in a language that I want to translate from. This is where I started my AI journey. The first step of the AI part of this process was converting the speech to text. I wanted to take his speech, that is an audio language, something that sounded like this.
నుంచి ముందు ఎండబెడతాం ఆ భోగి మంట వేసి దాంట్లో పెద్ద కొండ పెట్టేసి వేడి నీళ్ళు పెడతాం ఎంత వేడి అయిపోతుంది సార్ దాంట్లో
and converted it into English translation, something that looked like this.
In Irover's tapestry, each festival was a thread woven with care, each celebration a color adding vibrancy. For Seshaya, these festivals were chapters of life, holding lessons, memories, and a sense of belonging to the land and its people.
For this, I started evaluating regional language speech-to-text models. In my evaluations, OpenAI's Whisper was a good choice for me to start using. Let's take a pause here because let's understand one of the most important principles, one of the most important measures on how you can evaluate the quality of a speech-to-text model. That metric is word error rate. Word error rate is a metric that you would use to see if a speech-to-text model is actually validating at a very high level. I went about exploring OpenAI's Whisper capabilities, and I found that it did not translate really well into converting some of the regional languages at a very lower word error rate. These had really high word error rates, and anything beyond 49% means that your language translations are not going to be perfect. So I scoured the web to find if there's any good models that I can use to translate my Telugu audio transcriptions of my dad into English. I found SpeechLab from IIT Madras. IIT Madras is a university doing great work in this department. They're creating great regional language models that everybody can use. I found one of their models that was specifically fine-tuned for Telugu in Hugging Face. Now, let's take a quick pause here. Fine-tuning of these models. By feeding a language model extra data specifically in Telugu, it got incredibly good at picking up those unique idioms, phrases my dad uses. I could tell the story was his even in English. Now, I felt like this Hugging Face model is a good one to use if you have any Telugu transcriptions. Again, please feel free to refer to the OpenAI's Whispers word error rate page and pick the model if the word error rate is low for your language. So this step in the process is us trying to transcribe his Telugu audio into English translations. Let me pull up the code and we can walk through it. The code behind how you want to take a model from Hugging Face and convert it and set up the translations. So as you can see here, I'm importing the basic stuff. I'm also importing OpenAI, and I'll show you why I'm importing it so you can see where I'm making that change. From transformers, I'm importing pipeline. I wanted to set up environment if I don't have any GPUs, so it can use the CPU. This is the transcribe pipeline this is the pipeline syntax for translation for this app. You can actually find it in the Hugging Face repo, Hugging Face library. Once I had the audio that I wanted to segment and use, I wanted to chunk it into different sections. Once I had it chunked into bits, I ran it through the transcribe function and was able to get the final transcribed version of the transcript. Once I had that, I had OpenAI take the transcription and add a spin of trying to make it into a chapter in the style of Malgudi Days. The protagonist, again, is my dad. I gave my dad's name, and the town is my dad's town. And I wanted it to be descriptive and visual because I'm going to try and animate these stories. This is the logic and code for OpenAI, for the new OpenAI messages. Now, having completed translation, the next part is beginning to visualize and build the story together. I wanted to do the story in two aspects. I wanted to have a written story that I can put together as a keepsake for my dad, and I wanted to also visually bring these stories to life. This is where two of my favorite tools came into the picture, Midjourney and Runway ML. Midjourney is a great diffusion model that helps create images from text. And Runway ML is a great model that helps convert videos from text or images. Let's take a look at how I went about doing these both. This is how I used Midjourney to give me a beautiful rendering of my dad's words. I had taken words that he had described and put them in the prompt, tried to gather as close representations to life as possible. I wanted to put in the error. I ran these by my dad, make sure that he found the ones that are closest to what his actual experiences were. I also used ChatGPT to recommend to me some artistic styles that I want to use across the board. So in this case, let's take an example. Everything that you see in the prompt is something that my dad described. I wanted to also put in the style of, put a twist on it by giving it an impressionist art style. This was how I had run these images by my dad. So I showed him all the 4 options, and then I asked him to kind of pick which was the closest. He said these both were not, so I picked this and kind of ran it through another iteration and so on and so forth. This gave me a sense of control on what I wanted to get out of the images. Taking these images and animating them is the next step in the process. So let's take a look at how I did this in Runway ML. Runway ML's Gen 2 is amazing. You can either start with the text or start with an image. Let's start with an image in our case because we want to animate this amazing picture. Now, I really don't want to animate the whole picture. Rather, I want to pick sections of the picture and kind of animate them. Runway ML has an amazing tool called Motion Brush. Let's see how Motion Brush works. So all you have to do is grab a brush and pick the points where you want it to animate. For example, I want to animate this little fire area here, and I want to increase the ambience, and I want to move that a little bit, move it in the vertical axis a little bit, change the proximity a little bit, and you can add multiple brush strokes for different activities, right? So once you're done with it, hit done and generate, and it goes about generating an animation only on the spot that you had highlighted. What this allows you to do is keep a control of the image, but also animate in certain sections so that it pops. You can also add image plus description, where you give an image and add a description and it'll create a video for it. The thing about Runway ML is you can't let it take free reins on these images. I found Motion Brush is the perfect way to kind of control the quality of output that you're getting from this model. All right, so let's take a look at how this turned out. Again, we wanted to animate one area. That is beauty in art. You can also extend this, add another 4 seconds, etc., and so on and so forth. This is the place where AI really blew my mind. Picture this, software turning my dad's memories into stunning images, his words about a chaotic school morning. It becomes a colorful illustration teeming with kids in uniform, street vendors, everything as described. These aren't just generic stock images. These are visuals echoing his exact experience. Now, having gathered these images, the next process was to animate them so we can tell a story. To do this, we're going to use OpenAI's text-to-speech models. So now that we had our English translations, I wanted OpenAI to take the English translation and kind of construct it in a more narrative format, something akin to like how a Malgudi Days story would take place. And then now taking that and giving it voice through OpenAI's text-to-speech models. Let's go over the code on how to do that right now. OpenAI's new TTS models give you 6 different voice options to choose from. They provide excellent support to converting regular text into good quality audio, even HD. Streaming at real-time audio is also available with them. Let's take a look at how we set up our project. This is the code to actually activate one of these TTS models. You can modify your configs if you want. There you have it. You've converted your stories into brilliant narrations. Gathering these unique images and translated stories into a beautifully bound book felt like creating a little piece of history. And seeing that look on my dad's face when he held it, I knew it was not just a tech experiment. Now, was this project complicated? A little. But what matters is the result. We tend to see AI as this futuristic thing, but this felt heartwarming. AI is not just about how we solve our problems in the future. AI can also be a tool that can help us document the past for the future. Tech helped me preserve these memories, and I hope plant the seeds for deep connections that will last a lifetime. That's why I chose this project when I went back home. That's why I get excited about AI every day. That's why I say AI lifestyle. It truly changes how we share our ideas and how we can represent our ideas for everyone. If this sparks ideas for your own family, check out my blog where I've included all of these steps in great detail in the link below. Imagine the possibilities. You can create amazing visual representations of your parents' backstories for your children and everyone to enjoy. This is also a bittersweet video. This is going to be my final video for Project 2023, which is all my projects from 2023. We're going to start a new series for 2024, and I will talk all about it in my next video.